Mark?
My cousin up by Milan, they've been closed there for 2.5 to 3 weeks ago.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Well, roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez? Ms. Guadagnino? Mr. Corbin? Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Tosia?
Here.
Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Mayor Womack?
Here, sunshine notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publication in the Homestead Tribune on January 2nd, 2020, indicating that the North Conduct Township Council holds regular meetings on the first and third Monday of each month at 7 p.m. at 710 Herman Road, North Brunswick, and agenda meetings on the second and fourth Monday of the month at the same place at 7 p.m. In the event a regular meeting falls on a legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on Tuesday night after said holiday at the same place and hour.
Thank you. I was going to ask Mark to go first, but I guess he stepped
He's on
down.
his way, I was just told.
Why don't you go right ahead, Mark?
Good evening, everyone. I only have the bill list on the agenda for tonight. Any questions on the bill? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me hold you for a second. Joe, you've only got one item, right?
Sounds highly inappropriate.
Pardon me?
Sounds highly inappropriate.
Thanks, Carl.
Sorry.
I just have, the Rotary Club is donating $1,000 to the police department. They do it every year for the Adopt a Rock program. And we use it for the burials and giveaways for the kids.
Questions? Thank you, Chief. Michael, you only have one item?
1.5.
I don't think it qualifies.
You have a templated resolution for our annual CDBG award with Middlesex County. It's within a few $1,000s of our annual allocation. And my half, as I was just sharing, we just received notice on our state grant for next year's road program for Ridgewood Avenue, and we were awarded $555,000 in municipal aid, which is within a few $1,000s of what we got this past year as well.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you like to take it?
You only have one thing as well? Come right ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Just doing an ordinance change on chapter 184, which is solid waste. A lot of it's language change. The one item is I'm adding a limit on bulk collection stops that we discussed last budget, or the beginning
How
of last
many is
budget.
that?
That'll be
From
5.
and to?
Huh?
From how many?
From unlimited to 5 per year per resident. Yes, for property.
Questions on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Cafferty, come on up.
It's okay. No worries.
Now, I wanted to get Mark in right at the top in case anybody had
I can handle.
tuned in. I know the governor declared a state of emergency this afternoon. Yeah, so I wanted to talk to Mark about what the implications are. Make sure the council is up to date on what we're doing in preparation for the virus. Make sure Mark's able to respond to any suggestions or concerns you have.
Thank you, Mayor. As Mayor Womack has said, the governor did today approve a state of emergency or declare a state of emergency for New Jersey. That may sound bad by the name, a state of emergency, but it actually is good in a way that it, as the governor had said in his own words, removes bureaucratic red tape. So that's important. Some things are, you may not have to go for bids anymore to purchase an item that's an emergency item. It also frees up some funding, and if we get a presidential declaration as well, then this would become a somewhat funded event, portions of it, certainly not all of it, but enough to provide money to keep the operation going forward, because this could be for a longer amount of time than we would expect, could be a few months to several months going forward, so. I don't know if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them.
What if, so I just looked at NJ.com, it said the state's price gouging law also came into effect. What if someone notices that something is exorbitantly high? What should they do?
Honestly, I don't know that answer, so rather than give you a wrong answer, I think you probably call the consumer.
Weights and measures.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I mean, that's one thing I saw that.
Yeah.
Good question. It's a
Yep.
good question.
And for anybody, you can go on to our website, Township website. We have a lot of links to some of the places that would be helpful for you, FEMA.gov, of course, and then we have www.cdc.gov. It's important that you get your facts from reputable places, not necessarily Facebook or the internet, although the governor's speech tonight was on Facebook certainly, but generally speaking, we want to make sure that you do get good, accurate information. Some things that we don't want to downplay are to remember. This might sound like it can't be too helpful, but it's the best thing you can do, and that is to wash your hands frequently with soap and water. And if soap and water isn't available, certainly you would use the hand sanitizer. Avoid touching, your nose, face, or mouth with unwashed hands, and avoid contact with people who are sick. Stay at home while you are sick and avoid contact with others. That's a very important one. Stay at home because you're only infecting other people if you are sick. And if you do feel like you have symptoms, then call your doctor. You do not want to go to the doctor's office if you are symptomatic. You'll be spreading the virus to other people. So we want to try to contain this virus so we can get through this. And as I said, any questions that you have, there's also a New Jersey coronavirus hotline, and that is through the New Jersey Department of Health. And that number is on our website, but I will say it now. And it is 1-800-222-1222. So one more time, that's 1-800-222-1222. So we're all in this together, and together we will get through it, and we just need your help. So,
Mark,
yes, sir.
Question. What about schools in town? I know that my grandchildren's schools, public schools, are closed tomorrow. Now, I don't know if they're closing it just to, from what I gather, to clean it from top to bottom. But has anything been brought up in North Brunswick?
That subject has been approached, and that decision will be made at the time that the school board feels that it's appropriate. Right now, I've not been advised that there are any plans for a closing yet.
We have later this week, or as soon as Mark's able to pull it together, we're trying to bring together representatives of all the houses of worship that have, public meetings, for a meeting to go over what the township can help with, or what the status is. We're inviting representatives of all the youth sports organizations and the youth sports festival to come in, not with any directives or anything like that, but so we can make sure we've got the right dialogue and communication open, so that we're all able to help each other in every way that we can. We're working on not just Meals on Wheels, but we're working on trying to see what food service deliveries could be available for people who become quarantined. And we don't have all night, or I'd let Mark explain, but every one of those issues begins to get more complicated as you go down the different levels, starting right with the first aid and rescue squad and the fires department, some of the questions that they've already raised with regard to exposure. So, and I know the Chief Tagley has been on top of it over on his side. So it's complex, and we probably will be having, I know we'll be in touch a lot with Council President, but we'll probably be wanting to have regular telephone communication amongst ourselves to make sure that we keep up, because with the state of emergency today and quite a few new cases reported in New Jersey over the last 24 hours or so. It's just going to continue to go, so we want to make sure that as a town, which is not getting a lot of guidance from the feds in the state, because they're not getting it from the feds and from the county, what we do will be happening quickly, potentially, so we'll all stay in touch about that. Anything else you recommend, Mark? And all council members are welcome to come to any of these meetings, of course, that Mark is arranging. Chief?
And just so everybody knows, I put out a policy that officers will not, they will be responding to illness calls, but they won't be entering the residence. They'll be marking it for the squad and waiting outside.
So I have a question. So you explained what the state of emergency means for us funding, but what does it mean for the residents? What should they know? Does it mean anything for them? Because that sounds scary, so.
Well, in a way, it gives us the tools, basically, to do the job.
So there's nothing the residents should be worried, that they need to do, nothing that changes for them?
Not particularly. I would assume that the governor's message is on Facebook, and I'm sure it will be available on television as well, probably. So, or at least I'm sure it's on the state website, New Jersey State website. So, people may want to watch that. He was pretty quick, but he covered all of the bases in his comments. So.
And just remember, the major snowstorms, governor declares a state of emergency, gives extra powers.
But it means, but for the residents, it means don't drive if you don't have to, right? It means stay off the roads. Like, they kind of understand what that means.
If they add that in.
Yeah,
Right,
that's not in every declaration.
Right, but what I'm saying is this is something new. When the governor declares a state of emergency, what does that mean to a resident? Like, how does it affect them? I get how it
Wash your
affects
hands
us.
often.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think
what does that
all-
mean to them? Anything different than it did yesterday,
Well,
right?
for North Brunswick residents, this one will mean that we're gonna, things that, before he declared the state of emergency on, some of the preparedness measures and materials that we would spend money on, now are things that we can try to bill back to the state. So it's good for us from a
Right.
financial point of view, but I think your point's well taken, that specifics of what do we have to do, when do we do it, what, schools being open, schools not being open, we have to watch, we just have to be vigilant and watch for those, because those will be separate individual announcements that we'll be following as part of the state of emergency.
Plus, I guess it would give him more latitude if he decided to close government buildings. It's already declared a state of emergency, so anything he needed to do would be more expeditiously than if he did.
Right. I mean, this is. I don't recall another nationwide state of emergency. We're getting to that point. Like, you're seeing more and more governors are going in that direction. So, I mean, it's possible we could see that this time around, but it's just as I said, it eliminates a lot of the red tape. So it makes it easier to get equipment. I'm not saying it does, but it might provide equipment for first responders, for example, before, so they can do their jobs. They can get that equipment without having to wait online, so to speak. I don't mean personally, I mean, like the fire department, the first aid squad, the police department, they can get equipment that they need, so.
Theoretically, masks, if any became available, that type of.
Right, and then, he discussed that actually, I mean, these are the kind of things that are now in need that aren't available, so, yeah, it could give them, powers to do different things.
I was at CVS today just picking something up, and they had a sign in the back that no hand sanitizer, no mask. It was about 6 or 8 items
They were sold
that
out
they
of.
sold out of. Alcohol, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I guess our priorities, and again, we're all listening to all you, but right now to make sure the town is communicating with all the critical organizations, and that schools first, and then sports, houses of worship, that everybody is prepared if we have to look for alternative means of doing things. And then we are trying to prepare for quarantine situations. And people are always welcome to call my office, state hotline. We certainly try to be as transparent as we can on everything we know and what we're doing.
I'm sorry, Mark, that 222-1222, what was that phone number to?
Oh, that was for the New Jersey coronavirus hotline.
Oh, okay.
So if you had any questions, maybe you just say, oh, I have an upset stomach, as an example. Is that, one of the symptoms? Well, in this one, it's not necessarily, because it's a respiratory virus, so it's more a little bit upper chest. But rather than go to a hospital, because the hospitals are busy dealing with the confirmed cases and checking to see how the general health is, keeping an eye on that of the state. And so we don't want to tie hospitals up. Again, as I said, call your doctor. And I'm certain that they would rather speak with you on the phone and make a determination on the phone whether or not you need to come into the office. Again, we need to read the information that is out there, because all of this information is posted online. And I don't want to go too far into the medical end of it. I'm certainly not a doctor, and I don't want to give any misinformation.
You're a union plumber.
Union plumber, right. That does get me places, but yes. But anyway, just as I said, if you have questions, certainly call the municipal building. You can speak to the emergency management coordinator, and we'll try to answer your questions, or at least direct you to an agency that can answer your questions. So, and just as we said, just do the simple things. Don't shake hands, wash your hands frequently, just stay away from people at 6 feet that, we've been talking about. Do those things, and hopefully, we'll all be safe at the end of this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Benson?
Good evening, Mayor Matt.
Good evening.
Council and residents joining us. I have 5 items for your consideration this evening. Item number 1, I would like to explain the second annual Holy Celebration is going to be canceled. And this is just a precaution due to the nature of the event. If you're not familiar with the event, it's putting the powder, celebrating the spring coming on each other, and it has contact with touching your face and smearing the paint as well, the powder. So at this point, just as a precaution, that event will be canceled and not held Saturday at Vet Park on March 14th. And the time was 1 to 4. Are there any questions on that? The next 2 items, 2 and 3, are breakfast with the Easter Bunny, scheduled for Saturday, March 28th. And the 3rd item is the Taste of the Town, scheduled for Saturday, April 25th. Those will be updated whether those events will take place or not. I've been talking with the health inspector and Mark Cafferty as well. So as we gather information, we will update the public on those items. Items number 4, for residents listening, our summer camp 2020 registration is available online. And my last item this evening is our Veteran Street Naming Sign Dedication Program, just reminding all of our veterans we'd like them to be honored. Kindly go online. The forms are available, as well as we're getting close to Memorial Day celebration, and at Veterans Park we have our ceremony there, and the paper project for anyone that would like to have a paper. We need to have that kindly in by March the 30th around to have it ready for the events. Are there any questions? Have a wonderful
Thank you,
evening.
Luann. That was a nice event yesterday.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilwoman Guadagnino, for your assistance.
Catherine?
I said, okay, I have 12 items that I'll go through. The first one is a resolution authorizing a second amendment to the financial agreement between Township of North Brunswick and the North Brunswick Housing Urban Renewal Limited Partnership, or as we know, the North Brunswick Housing Corporation. We have an agreement that dates back to originally to 1994, and then, which was a financial agreement of setting the parameters with respect to the long-term tax exemption that the property was getting. And then again in 1998, we made an amendment to that financial agreement talking about the calculation of the annual municipal services. And then sometime in 2003, the law changed and defined net profit as something that we didn't have in our agreement. And so this is really just tightening up that law that happened in 2003 to have the correct definition of net profit within the financial agreement, because that's what's used to calculate what the payback might be for the municipal services. So it never came up before because I don't think that had an effect on what would happen in that calculation. And then just recently, the auditor for the Housing Corporation pointed it out and noted it, that we should have made the change because it makes a difference now in the years. And it's retroactive back to 2017 because he noted that in the audit for 2017 and 2018 that it makes a difference. And so that's what this attempts to do. And it really just, you can see that on the agreement, that it's just taking the language from the new law in order to define net profit. So, are there any questions on that? Item number 2 is authorizing an adjustment to the Board of Education water and sewer accounts for accrued interest that had been charged over the years. This again goes back a couple of years. We've been spending a few years trying to resolve the accounts, help them resolve the accounts. This really is kind of a payment / bookkeeping issue that happened, and I won't go into all the details, but there were a lot of changes made to the water and sewer billing. First at American Water when they closed down the Hershey office and then moved it to the plant, and then we had several issues with that over a year-plus long period until we finally brought it in-house. Since we brought it in-house, officials in the water sewer collection department have been trying to help reconcile the accounts. But in the meantime, when the mistakes happened back in 2016, or the issues, interest started accruing then, and as you know, it continues to accrue because that balance continued to sit there. So this would really be reversing all of the interest that happened as a result of that to get to really the balance that they should owe on the accounts. But it's not insignificant, so that's why I was taking a little more time to explain what happened on that. So this would be, again, waiving all of the interest that happened in that one period. It goes back to about 2016. Any questions on that? Item number 3 is a resolution authorizing a credit to a township resident for their water sewer utility account. Again, this was extenuating circumstances, a documented leak outside of our sewer system. So they paid for the water, but we adjust their sewer charges back to what an average bill might be. So this would be a credit in the amount of $70.91. Questions? The fourth item is a resolution amending the contract that we have with IT Network Solutions for our network infrastructure consulting and support services. This is part of our project to upgrade all of our municipal servers, all but one actually. We've already done one. This is upgrading 11 of our 12 servers. We have currently a contract with IT Network Solutions, and it's broken into categories, and categories 1 and 2 are for hourly services, for consulting or labor, for implementation of projects, and 2 is for network-related licensing. This server project also has a capital component that we have to purchase the hardware. That's in the next resolution, and I'll explain why it's not on this one. So this would be, again, replacing 11 of the 12 municipal servers, and it includes the Exchange server, which hosts our email, and the SQL server, which hosts our Laserfish and some other softwares like Spatial Data Logic and other various databases. The cost of the project is funded out of our capital ordinance, and the amount that is under this contract that we are looking to increase it is $155,543 for the Microsoft software and Office licensing, and then $85,588.50 for implementation services, for a total additional amount not to exceed $241,041.50. And again, that includes the software licensing, which is the most expensive part of this piece, and $85,000 and some change for the labor to implement this. And it's over, I think, approximately a 5 or 6 month period that this project is going to take. And it does not include, this particular authorization does not yet include the hardware. That's in the next resolution. So do you have any questions on that one?
I just wanted to, if you can clarify, why is it necessary to do this?
Okay, that's a great question. So the 11 to 12, the 11 servers that we have left are way past their useful life. They're over 10 years old, and I think 12 or 13 years old for some of them.
We're still operating on Outlook.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the software upgrade and everything, it's not even supported anymore in some instances. And so, and we've had some failures, as you probably experienced as well, on our email server, which is at the end of its useful life. And it really is a necessity to get these things switched and upgraded. Any other questions?
Is that consistent with your experience at work, et cetera, Ralph?
Well, servers and the software more or less tend to have an expiration life. They upgrade them and then they get to the point where they don't support things anymore. I don't know if that's the case here. Like, as an example, at home I have Windows 7, and as of the 1st of this year, I just got a notice up on my thing that it's no longer supported. They don't support other things, so if that's the case, it's not supported anymore, they would have to upgrade it. And the servers, I mean, you're talking different types of core processors and things like this. I don't know if this has a RAID array backup or how it works, if they have a backup system, but it's expensive stuff.
And the next resolution is related in that it's the purchase of the hardware, this actual servers themselves, in this upgrade project. The total cost of the hardware for this project for the 11 servers and all those parts, and there's a list of parts that are shown there, is under state contract. That's why we're doing it separately. We're not allowed to purchase the hardware under our contract with IT Network Services, so we're doing it through state contract. The amount is $71,469.30. And again, between the IT Network Solutions cost of the software and the labor, and then the hardware, it's all in our capital budget for IT. You had budgeted about $340,000, and And this project comes in at about a total of 310, or
Do I
312.
let Mr. Wilson know that Ann Murphy hasn't worked here in a while? Can we get our names straight here on these contracts?
I didn't even look at that. Where is it?
It's here, it's there.
All right,
She's been
hard.
retired a while, it's not gonna be updated names.
It's in the contract.
It's in the backup, page
Okay.
4 of 8.
I'll look at that. Sorry about that. Okay, any other questions on these? Item number 6 is a bond ordinance. Actually, items number 6 and 8 are somewhat related, so I was going to take those together. They're separate because they're separate infrastructure systems. So item number 6 is a bond ordinance providing for improvements to our sewer distribution system. So again, we have a lot of projects coming up, and we generally do an authorization so that we can do the sewer projects. We do it for water too, but as we put them on our capital plan. So we just recently had an evaluation done of our Mile Run Interceptor and our Maple Mead line, and there's some critical areas that need to be reconstructed or improved. So this is doing an ordinance so that we can get some of those done. It also is saying that we'll finance through the iBank, because the iBank, we're hoping to get the favored financing where you get 75% of the project at 0% interest, and then 25% would be at their market rate interest. And so we're hoping at the very least we'll get a 50-50 split, so at least half of it will be interest free. So it's a good time to go to the iBank, and they have funding, new funding as well, that we should be able to fund some of these bigger projects that we have coming through. We did talk to the Water Sewer Subcommittee about this too, so they're aware and hopefully supportive of doing these. And the item number 8 is the same thing, but for our water treatment plant and distribution system on the water side. So both of them are for, each of them are for $10 million worth of projects. We have that on our capital plan, but really that's several years worth of capital projects for both the water and the sewer system. Any questions on those?
Just a question to go back.
Sure.
These rack servers, you said 11?
Yeah.
There's only 4 on the...
There's 4 hard, the rest of the other ones are virtual, that will go.
Virtual?
That will be housed in those.
Okay, so there's multiple, like it's like a 3-rate array or something in each one of them, something like that?
Yeah.
Over my head, Ralph.
Just think of ray of sunshine.
Oh my God.
You would have thought, I would have.
It's
I'm not
RAID,
texting you anymore.
R-A-I-D. Just think of bugs.
That's it, pests. All right, item number 7 is a bond ordinance for our capital road program. Generally, we don't bring this to you until a little bit later, but we've had CME already doing construction cost estimates on the road program, the roads that we talked about for 2020, so we'd like to be able to go out to bid for those. If you recall, we had a reduced amount for road program in last year's capital, so this would be bringing it to you earlier so that we can actually cover the roads that are on the list for 2020 and be able to do that. The other one that wasn't on our capital list for last year, but needs to be on and is on, that would be covered under this one, would be the work that we have to do on Roosevelt for the environmental piece of it, right? So,
Yeah, well, the sooner the better, because it's even, like when we discussed, school starts earlier this year, so
Right.
they get that kicking for Roosevelt because.
That's why we wanted to
that's
do
very
this
time
a little bit
sensitive.
earlier, and we're bringing it to you. So that would be $4 million worth additional for the road program. And so this is not to say we're not gonna have other roads that might need to be done once we get into these that are already on the list. And we've sort of reserved the fact that we may come to you a little earlier next year too, to say that there might be others that should also be done in the 2021, fiscal 21 road program. Item number 9 is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the agreement that we have with Hoagland, Longo, Moran, Dunstan, Dukas for environmental legal services. So this has been an ongoing contract that we've had with this firm. This is asking for an increase of $15,000 to cover invoices that took place in last year, which we're upping last year's contract because the invoices came in after the first of the year and they were for November and December work. And we generally don't have a lot of work now, we have in the past, but it's gearing up again because he's been doing a lot more visits to court and having to make court appearances and that type of thing and to further the case. So this would be authorizing the contract to go from $70,000 to $85,000 for the fiscal year or for the calendar year 2019, so that we can cover those invoices.
When he was last here, I sort of was under the impression we were getting closer to wrapping it up.
It's gone like that we get kind of close and then something happens and we have something else go on. So we're probably due for another update to have him come and talk about where we are right now.
Yeah, like before we pass this thing.
Well, I'd like to get those invoices paid for that. This was work already done.
He's doing the work. I do get that. He's deserved to be paid for it, but it would be good to hear again why.
I think so, where we're at.
Yes.
Yes. Item number 10 is an amendment to our salary ordinance, and again, this was looking at the ranges for the titles, and after settling of the local 108 white collar contract, and then the other non-contractual titles that may have had an increase of approximately 2% at the beginning of the year. This is adjusting those ranges on there so that we're meeting really the requirement to have a range in place authorized by an ordinance for what the titles are actually making. Questions on that? Items 11 and 12, almost done, are both related, and they're regarding the application that you've authorized to go to the state for funding for a new library. So the application deadline is coming up sometime in the beginning of April. The application goes in by the library board of trustees, but again, there's some things that you as a governing body have to do. One of them is accepting and approving the fact that you're going to allow the library to apply for the grants. And if you recall, the grant became available based on a referendum that went to the voters that approved this funding source. So we are eligible to, once we make application, to get up to 50% of the cost of our library construction. So we'd like to try to get this application in. You've engaged Anthony Iovino, who has been the architect. He did a concept plan. I think Justine just kind of handed out. Is that it? Yeah. And that's going to be part of the application as well. The application is quite extensive, so we've engaged Anthony to do the application. And once we do this authorization, should you approve this, these resolutions also go as part of the application. And one, as I said, is actually accepting the funds under the Library Construction Bond Act, should we be awarded those funds, but also dedicating that municipal land for the purposes of a library. So it's still our land and our ownership, and as you know, it's across the street from the municipal building here.
We've taken into account the construction, which is gonna start at Linwood in the fall, and we're not gonna conflict with anything that they're doing. Driveways are not gonna conflict, everything is.
That's correct. We've already been, in contact. They've had contact as well between Anthony Iavino and the
Because
board.
come September, these athletic fields are gone, and this is where that other
Right.
addition starts. Just wanna make sure we're all
Right.
on the same page.
And the other one is a resolution authorizing the application and acceptance of funding under the Library Construction Bond Act. So again, these are two requirements for the application. And it's basically saying that the township is supporting the application. It's not saying that we're gonna move forward with the project until we know what the funding is, so. Any questions on those? I'm done.
Thank you, Catherine.
Good.
Lisa?
Item number 1 is minutes from our regular council meeting of February 24th, 2020. And item number 2 is minutes from our regular council meeting of March 2nd, 2020. Any corrections? Okay, then we have an ordinance on second reading and public hearing, number 20-05, and a New Jersey State Firemen's Association application for fire company number 3, and all paperwork is in order. That's all I have this evening.
I have to, I've gotten a call, I've got to go to Carteret. Is it to pass the bill list, the majority of those present, or?
Majority of those present, but we do need a quorum, and
Good,
3 and 1 is the quorum.
good. So, is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Shall I read this, Mayor?
Yeah, go right ahead, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
It's a resolution authorizing the mayor and council to enter into executive session. Whereas the mayor and council are mindful of the right of the public to attend and witness meetings of governmental bodies at which public business is discussed and to be involved in all phases of governmental action. And whereas the Open Public Meetings Act nonetheless recognizes the authority of the public body to exclude the public from meetings in certain enumerated instances in which disclosure of matters discussed could endanger public safety, property, or other public interest, or invade individual privacy. And whereas as authorized by the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12B, mayor and council have agreed to meet in private session to discuss matters affecting pending or anticipated litigation to which the public body may be a party, and matters within the attorney-client privilege. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council will meet in private session at 8:43 p.m. on March 9th, 2020, to discuss the following specific items. The status and an update regarding the Campbell litigation. Be it further resolved, the matter so discussed will be disclosed to the public at such time as the litigation is resolved or the matter is otherwise becomes matter of public record. Thank you, Mayor.
7:43.
7:43. If I could read time, I might be dated.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Is there anybody who'd like, anybody want to talk?
No, Luann did her own dirty work tonight, so we're cool.
Anybody want to be heard? Is there anybody here who's here for public hearing?
No.
The motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Good night.
Everybody have a good night. And you would be shocked, Mary Lou,
I was-